The conference hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal, filled with representatives from 47 alien civilizations. High Executive Vren stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing dramatically as he addressed the assembly. His species, the Calathi, had ruled the Galactic Concord for 12,000 years. They had never been challenged, never been questioned, and certainly never been defied by a primitive backwater species like humanity. Dr. Guan sat in the human delegation section, her translator earpiece converting Vren's speech into Korean. She had been Earth's chief diplomat for 5 years now. In that time, she had delivered 73 formal responses to Concord demands. Each time, her answer had been the same: respectful acknowledgement, followed by polite refusal. The human infestation must be contained, Vren declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. They expand without permission. They mine asteroids in disputed territories. They refuse to share their faster-than-light technology. Worst of all, they build weapons when we have demanded disarmament. Giwan rose to her feet, waiting for recognition. The assembly fell silent. Even after 2 decades of contact, most species found humans unsettling. They were too expressive, too emotional, too unpredictable. High Executor, she began, her voice steady. Earth has violated no Concord laws because Earth is not a Concord member. We have not joined your coalition. We have committed no acts of aggression. The asteroids we mine are in human-controlled space, granted to us by settlement rights recognized across the galaxy. Our military exists solely for defense. Warprime Thule, commander of the Concord's combined military forces, slammed his massive fist against his delegation table. The sound cracked through the hall like thunder. Defense? He roared. You possess weapons capable of destroying planets. What species builds such things for defense? Every species in this room, Giwan replied calmly, including yours, Warprime. The difference is that humanity has never used such weapons in anger. Can the Concord claim the same? The assembly erupted in angry, chittering roaring and electromagnetic pulses that the translator couldn't quite capture. Vren called for order, his golden eyes fixed on Giwan with barely concealed contempt. The Concord has maintained peace for millennia, he said. We have created order from chaos. We have elevated primitive species and guided them toward civilization. Humanity rejects our guidance at their peril. Jiwan gathered her materials, knowing the vote was already decided. Then let me be clear, High Executor. Earth will not submit to Concord authority. We will not dismantle our defenses. We will not abandon our colonies. If you choose to make this a conflict, you will find humanity far more resilient than you imagine. This is not a threat. It is a warning. She walked out before the vote concluded. She already knew the result, 3,000 light-years away. Commander Heian-Wu stood on the bridge of the destroyer Soul's Pride, watching the asteroid processing stations of New Busan through the viewport. The colony was home to 8 million humans, mostly miners, and their families. It was also humanity's furthest outpost, vulnerable and exposed. Commander, we're receiving encrypted traffic from Earth Command, his communications officer reported. Priority Alpha. Hinwu felt his stomach tighten. Priority Alpha meant war. He had known this day would come eventually. Humanity had been expanding too quickly, refusing to bow to alien demands. Building a military that made the old powers nervous. Peace was never going to last. Decrypt and display, he ordered. The message was brief. Concord Assembly has authorized military action against human territories. Expect initial strike within 72 hours. All colonies to implement evacuation protocols. Defense. Fleet mobilizing. Good luck! Heian-Wu turned to his crew. 23 men and women, most younger than 30, all trained for a war they hoped would never come. Sound General Quarters. Get me Admiral Daeyun on secure channel, and someone wake up Governor Park and tell her to start the evacuations. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as his crew moved to their stations. Heian-Wu pulled up tactical displays showing human forces in the sector. 12 destroyers, 6 frigates, 3 cruisers, and the ancient carrier, Incheon with its squadron of fighters. Against them would come the might of the Galactic Concorde. The secure channel crackled to life, and Admiral Dayon's weathered face appeared on the screen. The old man looked tired. He had fought in Earth's last major war, a unification conflict that had finally brought all of humanity under one government. That had been 40 years ago, and everyone had hoped humanity's fighting days were behind them.
I woo,
The Admiral said. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Intelligence estimates the Concorde is sending 500 warships to New Busan. They want to make an example of you. Earth is mobilizing everything we have, but we can't get reinforcements to you in time. Understood, sir? What are my orders? Buy us time. Evacuate as many civilians as possible. Make the Concorde bleed for every meter of space. Show them that humanity doesn't break easily. They unpaused. In Hyanwu, don't sacrifice yourself unnecessarily. We need experienced officers for what's coming. The channel closed. Hyunwoo looked at his tactical officer, Lieutenant Mira, a young pilot who had transferred to his ship just 3 months ago. She was brilliant, aggressive, and completely fearless. Exactly the kind of officer they would need. Mira, get your fighter squadron ready. I want reconnaissance drones deployed along every likely approach vector. If the Concorde is coming, I want to know the moment they enter the system. Yes, sir. She practically ran from the bridge, eager for action. Over the next 2 days, New Busan transformed from a peaceful mining colony into a fortress. Civilian transports loaded refugees and jumped toward safer systems. Weapons platforms came online, hidden among the asteroids. Every human ship in the sector converged on the colony. Captain Soman arrived with the stealth frigate Shadow of Incheon. Her crew specialists in electronic warfare and unconventional tactics. Engineer Taiyang transferred from the colony research station with 3 shipping containers, full of experimental weapons he had been developing in secret. Governor Park coordinated the evacuation with grim efficiency, getting the youngest civilians out first. On the 3rd day, Mira's reconnaissance drones detected the jump signatures. 500 ships, just as intelligence had predicted. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. A display of overwhelming force designed to intimidate. War Prime Thul's face appeared on every communication channel. His message broadcast across the entire system. Attention, human forces. You are in violation of Galactic Concorde Decree 7841. You have 72 hours to power down all military vessels, disable your weapons platforms, and prepare for Concorde occupation. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of this colony. You cannot win. Surrender now, and casualties will be minimized. Hyanwu looked at the tactical display. 500 alien warships against 21 human vessels. The enemy had better shields, better weapons, centuries more experience. Every strategic analysis said humanity should surrender. Instead, Hyanwu opened a channel to all human forces. This is Commander Hyanwu to all ships. The Concorde thinks we'll break because we're outnumbered. They think we'll surrender because we're young. They're about to learn what happens when you corner humanity. All ships, battle stations, let's show them what we're made of. Across the fleet, human crews cheered. They were terrified, but they were ready. The battle for New Busan began with silence. War Prime Thul had given humanity 72 hours to surrender, but Hyanwu knew the Concorde wouldn't wait. They would strike when humans least expected it, probably within the first 12 hours. That was standard Concorde doctrine. Make demands, then attack, while the enemy was still considering their options. Mira sat in the cockpit of her fighter, the Dragon's Breath, running through pre-flight checks for the 5th time. Around her, 23 other pilots did the same. The fighter bay of the carrier engine hummed with nervous energy. They had all trained for combat, but none of them had actually fought an alien species before. Humanity's last war had been against itself. All pilots, this is Flight Commander Lee. Her headset crackled. Enemy fleet is holding position at the edge of the system. No movement yet. Stay sharp. Mira closed her eyes and breathed slowly. Her father had been a pilot in the Unification War. He had told her that the moments before battle were always the hardest. Once the fighting started, Training took over, and you just reacted. It was the waiting that destroyed you. The attack came 8 hours later. Concord ships didn't announce their assault. They simply opened fire from extreme range, energy beams crossing millions of kilometers to slam into human defensive positions. The first weapons platform exploded in a flash of nuclear fire. Then the second. Then the third. All ships engage. Hyanwu's voice cut through the chaos. Execute dispersal pattern alpha. Don't give them concentrated targets. The human fleet scattered like startled fish. It looked like panic to the Concord commanders, but it was carefully practiced chaos. Human ships dove toward the asteroid field, using the rocks for cover. Breaking the Concord's targeting solutions, Myra's fighter launched with 23 others, streaking toward the enemy fleet at maximum acceleration. The Concorde ships were massive, some of them 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons designed to fight other capital ships. They weren't prepared for small, fast targets. Dragon Squadron, follow my lead, Mira called out. Target the shield generators on those cruisers. Kinetic rounds, full saturation. Her fighters' autocannons roared to life. Thousands of tungsten carbide rounds sprayed toward the nearest Concorde cruiser at a significant fraction of light speed. The Concorde shields were designed to disperse energy weapons, not solid projectiles moving at relativistic velocities. The rounds punched through, tearing into the ship's hull. Their shields are garbage against kinetics. One of her pilots shouted, but the celebration was premature. Concorde point defense systems came online, tracking the fighters with deadly accuracy. 2 of Myra's squadron died in the first 10 seconds. Their ships vaporized by alien beam weapons, Captain. Salman watched the battle from the stealth frigate Shadow of Inchen. Her ship hidden among the asteroids, with all systems running cold. The Concorde sensors swept past them repeatedly. But human stealth technology was one area where they actually had an advantage. Humanity had spent centuries learning how to hide from each other. Weapon status? She asked quietly. Experimental plasma mines armed and ready, her weapons officer reported. Engineer Taiyang is standing by. Taiyang stood in the weapons bay, his hands trembling slightly. The devices he had built were untested in actual combat. They were based on stolen Concorde technology, reverse-engineered and improved. In theory, they would work. In theory, Captain, I'm ready, he said into his communicator. But I need to be close. Within 500 meters, understood? Helm, bring us into the Concorde formation. Silent running. The shadow of Incheon drifted through the battlefield like a ghost. Around them, human ships fought desperately against overwhelming odds. The destroyer Soul's Pride traded fire with a Concorde battleship, Hyan Wu's crew, fighting with everything they had. The human ship was taking terrible damage. But it kept firing. Summon's frigate slipped between 2 Concorde cruisers, so close she could see the alien crew through the viewports. None of them noticed the human ship. Concorde arrogance assumed no enemy would dare come this close. Deploy mines. Full spread. Taiyang released the weapons manually. 40 spherical devices drifted away from the frigate, spreading out among the Concorde ships. They looked like pieces of debris, completely inert. The Concorde sensors ignored them. Mines deployed. Arming sequence initiated. Detonation in 30 seconds. The shadow of Incheon accelerated away, still undetected. Behind them, the mines began to glow. The explosions were beautiful and terrible. Each mine generated a sphere of nuclear-pumped plasma, temperatures reaching millions of degrees. The Concorde shields collapsed instantly. 6 cruisers simply vanished, vaporized by the blast. 3 more spun away. Hulls breached and bleeding atmosphere. Warprime Thule watched from his command ship, his confidence evaporating. 9 ships destroyed in one attack. Impossible. These were humans, primitives barely 2 centuries into spaceflight. How were they doing this? All ships, Titan formation. He ordered, deploy fighter screens. Find that stealth ship and destroy it. But the damage was done. The Concorde fleet, which had expected easy victory, now faced an enemy that fought with terrifying creativity. Human ships used tactics the Concorde had never seen: ramming attacks, nuclear-pumped lasers, electromagnetic pulse weapons, cyber warfare, and psychological operations. Hyan Wu's tactical officer had hacked into Concorde communications and was broadcasting recordings of their destroyed ships across enemy frequencies. The Concorde crews heard their comrades dying and grew afraid. Fear was something they hadn't felt in battle for centuries. A civilian freighter, the Morning Star, piloted by a woman named Yuna, had been trapped in the system when the battle started. She had no weapons, no armor, just a cargo hold full of mining equipment. But she had something more valuable: rage. "This is the Morning Star to any human ships," she broadcast. "I've got a hold full of high explosives and a working engine. Someone give me a target." Hyan Wu responded immediately. "Morning Star, this is Commander Hyan Wu." "Are you certain?" "My family is on this colony, Commander. Make my death count." "Understood. Target designation incoming. We'll remember you." The Morning Star accelerated toward a Concorde carrier, its engines pushed far beyond safe limits. Concorde weapons fire tore into the freighter, but Yuna kept flying. At the last moment, she ejected in an escape pod. The freighter slammed into the carrier's hangar bay and detonated. The explosion broke the carrier's spine. It tumbled through space, secondary explosions rippling along its length. Hundreds of Concorde fighters were destroyed before they could launch. Yuna's escape pod was picked up by a human destroyer an hour later. She was the first civilian to actively join the fighting. She wouldn't be the last. The battle raged for 16 hours. Human losses were catastrophic. 14 ships destroyed, thousands dead. But the Concorde had lost 47 vessels, including 3 heavy cruisers and 2 carriers. War Prime Thule finally ordered a tactical withdrawal to regroup, as the Concorde fleet pulled back. Hyan Wu surveyed the damage. His ship was barely functional, held together by emergency patches and the determination of his crew. New Bazan's orbital stations were destroyed. Millions of tons of infrastructure reduced to debris, but the colony still stood. The civilians had been evacuated, and the Concorde had learned a terrible lesson: humanity would not surrender easily on Earth. Dr. Jiwan watched recordings of the battle. When it finished, she composed a message to the Galactic Concorde. It was simple and direct. "You were warned. You thought we were weak because we are young. This is only the beginning. Every ship you send, we will destroy. Every world you threaten, we will defend. You wanted war? Now you have it. And you will learn the price of that mistake." She sent the message across every communication channel in known space. Within hours, it was being discussed on 1,000 worlds. The Galactic Concorde, undefeated for millennia, had been bloodied by a species they considered primitive. War Prime Thule received reinforcements and authorization to use extreme measures. He would personally oversee the destruction of the next human colony. And after that, Earth itself. The real war was just beginning. The agricultural world of Sajong had never been intended as a military target. 12 million humans lived there, farming engineered crops in vast hydroponic domes. Children played in artificial parks. Families gathered for meals. It was peaceful, quiet, and utterly defenseless. That made it perfect for what War Prime Thule had planned. "We will make an example," he told his assembled fleet commanders. "The humans must learn that resistance brings only death. We will destroy Sajong completely. No survivors. No mercy. When Earth sees an entire colony reduced to ash, they will understand the futility of opposition." The Concorde fleet approaching Sajong numbered 800 ships. Twice the size of the force that had attacked New Busan. They brought planet-cracker weapons, devices designed to shatter worlds. The Concorde hadn't used such weapons in 3,000 years. But War Prime Thule had convinced the High Council that humanity required extreme measures. What Thal didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for exactly this scenario. Director? Kyung-ho sat in a classified facility 3 kilometers beneath Seoul, surrounded by screens showing intelligence data from across Concorde space. He was Earth's Director of Black Operations, a position that officially didn't exist. For 20 years, since first contact with the Concorde, he had been running the most ambitious espionage program in human history. "We've confirmed the Concorde fleet's target," one of his analysts reported. "Sejong, ETA 72 hours?" Kyung-ho nodded slowly. "Activate all assets in Concorde space. Execute Project Prometheus." Across 15 Concorde worlds, sleeper agents received encrypted activation codes. These were humans who had spent years building cover identities, learning alien languages, infiltrating military installations and government facilities. Some had been in place for a decade or more, patiently waiting for this moment. On the Calathi homeworld, a human woman working as a maintenance technician accessed the main military shipyard's computer system. Within minutes, navigation data for 300 Concorde vessels was corrupted. Ships preparing to join Thal's fleet suddenly found their jump coordinates scrambled. On the industrial world of Vexor, a human saboteur detonated carefully placed charges in the primary weapons manufacturing facility. The explosion was so precisely calculated that it looked like an industrial accident. Production of Concorde energy weapons stopped immediately. On the trade hub of Kellis Prime, human intelligence officers assassinated 6 fleet admirals during a strategy conference. The killings were quiet, professional, and terrifying. The Concorde had considered their core worlds utterly safe. That illusion was now shattered. Ensign Han-Yul worked in Earth's Signals Intelligence Division. She was 24 years old and the best cryptographer humanity had ever produced. For 2 years, she had been studying Concorde communication protocols, looking for weaknesses. "I'm in," she announced suddenly, her fingers flying across holographic displays. "I have access to their tactical network." Her supervisor leaned over her shoulder. "Can you disrupt their targeting systems?" "Better than that. I can feed them false data. Make them see targets that don't exist." "Do it." As the Concorde fleet approached Sejong, their sensors began reporting phantom human ships. Thousands of them, appearing from nowhere, surrounding the planet. Warprime Thule ordered his fleet to engage. Wasting precious ammunition on targets that didn't exist, by the time his crews realized they had been deceived, human forces had sprung their trap. Captain Summon's stealth frigate wasn't alone anymore. Earth had deployed 37 stealth ships around Sejong, all hidden among the planet's asteroid belt. They had been waiting for weeks, running silent, invisible to Concorde sensors. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Admiral Daeyun commanded from the carrier engine. "Show these invaders what happens when you threaten our families." The stealth ships revealed themselves all at once, launching weapons the Concorde had never encountered. Engineer Tai Yang had been busy. His nanite warheads deployed microscopic machines that began disassembling Concorde ships at the molecular level. Entire cruisers simply dissolved, their hulls breaking apart into clouds of atoms. The Concorde crews panicked. Their shields were useless. Their weapons couldn't target something they couldn't see. Ships that had survived battles for decades died in minutes. Myra led her fighter squadron in a desperate charge against a Concorde dreadnought. The massive ship was trying to deploy its planet cracker weapon, a device that would send seismic waves through Sejong's core and tear the world apart. She had to stop it. "Dragon Squadron with me. Target that weapon mounting?" Her fighters dove through a storm of defensive fire. 3 ships exploded before reaching effective range. Myra didn't slow down. She fired every missile she had, then followed up with her autocannons. Pouring kinetic rounds into the weapon platform, the planet cracker weapon detonated prematurely. The explosion consumed the dreadnought and 4 nearby ships. Myra's fighter was caught in the blast wave, spinning wildly out of control. Her instruments went dark. "Mira, report." Her squadron second called out. "I'm alive," she gasped, fighting to stabilize her tumbling fighter. "Weapons gone, engines at 20%. I'm out of the fight." "Negative, Lieutenant. Look at your screens. You just saved 12 million people. The fleet is breaking." She pulled up her tactical display. The Concorde formation was collapsing. Ships were jumping away in panic, abandoning their mission. Warprime Thule's flagship was retreating, surrounded by the remnants of his once mighty fleet. But the battle for Sajong was only one front in a war that had spread across the galaxy. Commander Jinwoo led Earth's Special Forces team through the corridors of a Concord military base on the world of Taros 4. His team of 12 operators moved like shadows, their weapons equipped with suppressors that made them nearly silent. "Target building is ahead," he whispered into his communicator. "Communications hub. If we take it down, the Concord loses coordination for this entire sector." They had infiltrated the base disguised as maintenance workers, using forged credentials created by Haniel's intelligence team. The Concord security forces never suspected humans would dare attack a military installation 3,000 light-years from Earth. Jinwoo's team planted shape charges at key structural points. The explosions would look like a reactor malfunction. Plausible deniability was important, even in war. Charges set. Exfiltration in 90 seconds. They were halfway to the extraction point when alarms began blaring. Someone had discovered the bombs. Concord soldiers poured into the corridors, weapons raised. Contact. One of Jinwoo's operators shouted, returning fire. The firefight was brief but intense. Human weapons, designed for close-quarters combat, cut through the Concord soldiers. Jinwoo's team fought their way to the landing pad, where their stealth shuttle waited. Jinwoo screamed, diving through the shuttle door as enemy fire stitched across the hull. The shuttle lifted off just as the charges detonated. The communications hub collapsed in a pillar of fire. The Concord base went dark, cut off from the rest of their military network. General Bora watched the tactical displays from Earth's military command center. Reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Concord's supply lines were being disrupted. Military installations were under attack. Governments were collapsing as member species realized the war was costing far more than they had been told. Intelligence reports that 7 Concord member species have withdrawn from the coalition, her aide reported. They're refusing to commit more ships. "Only 7? Bora replied. "We need to push harder." "What's the status on Operation Spearpoint? Ready to execute on your order?" Bora had been planning Operation Spearpoint for months. It was audacious, possibly insane, and exactly the kind of move the Concord wouldn't expect. Instead of defending human worlds, they would attack Concord territory directly. "Send our ground forces to retake Colony World Vega 3. If the Concord wants to take our homes, we'll take theirs." The invasion of Vega 3 began with orbital bombardment. Human ships had learned from every encounter with the Concord. They knew where to hit, how to disable shields, which weapons were most effective. The Concord garrison was overwhelmed in hours. Human Marines landed on a Concord colony for the first time in history. The alien civilians fled in terror. They had never imagined being on the receiving end of invasion. General Bora issued strict orders. No atrocities. No revenge killings. Humanity would fight hard, but they would fight with honor. Every civilian protected. Every prisoner treated fairly. This wasn't about genocide. It was about survival and sending a message back on Earth. Dr. Jiwan addressed the Galactic Assembly, most of whose members were now cowering in bunkers as human forces operated throughout their territory. "You started this war expecting easy victory," she said, her voice cold. "You thought humanity would break. Instead, your empire's breaking. 23 species have abandoned your coalition. Your supply lines are cut. Your military bases are burning. This can end today. Withdraw all forces from human space. Recognize our sovereignty. Or we will continue this war until your civilization is nothing but a memory." War Prime Thule received the message in his flagship, watching his fleet limp back to Concord space. He had lost over 1,200 ships, billions in military equipment, thousands of trained crew, and humanity hadn't even deployed their full military yet, he realized. Far too late that the Concord had made a terrible mistake. 6 months into the war, the galaxy burned. The Galactic Concord, which had maintained order for millennia, was collapsing. 23 member species had withdrawn entirely. refusing to sacrifice more ships against an enemy that fought without mercy or hesitation. The remaining species were divided, some calling for peace negotiations, others demanding total war against humanity. War Prime Thule chose total war. "We must strike at Earth itself," he argued before the reduced Concord Council. "Cut off the head, and the body dies. The humans draw strength from their homeworld. Destroy it, and their resistance will collapse." High Executive Wren, watching his empire crumble, reluctantly agreed. "You will have every remaining ship we can muster. 800 vessels. Our final strategic reserve. End this war, Thule. Win or lose, but end it." Thule departed the council chambers with grim satisfaction. He would personally lead the fleet to Earth. This time, there would be no mistakes, no underestimating the enemy. They would overwhelm humanity's homeworld through sheer force of numbers. But in her war room beneath Seoul, Dr. Giwan had predicted exactly this move. "They'll come for Earth," she told Admiral Dayon during a secure conference. "Thule is predictable. He's lost every major engagement, and now his credibility depends on a decisive victory. He needs to destroy something significant." "Earth can handle the defense," Dayon replied. "We've turned the entire Sol system into a fortress. Weapons platforms on every moon, automated defense satellites, minefields throughout the asteroid belt. Let them come," Nojiwan said quietly. "We're not going to just defend. While Thule commits everything to attacking Earth, we're going to cut the heart out of the Concord. We're going to hit their capital world." The silence on the call stretched for several seconds. Then Daeyun laughed, a harsh sound with no humor in it. "That's insane. The Concord capital has defenses that make Earth look unprotected. Planetary shields, orbital fortresses, 3 entire fleets stationed in system, which is why they won't expect it. Thule is bringing most of those fleets to Earth. The capital will be vulnerable for the first time in recorded history. And if we fail, if both Earth and the strike force are destroyed, then humanity dies fighting," Jiwan said. "Which is what we were going to do anyway. But we won't fail. Ensign Hanyul has cracked their navigation codes. Captain Summon's stealth ships can bypass their sensors. And we have something they don't. The willingness to sacrifice everything for victory." The plan was set. Earth would defend with everything it had, while Admiral Daeyun would lead humanity's offensive fleet in a decapitation strike against the Concord. The government itself, Commander Hyunwoo, recovered from his injuries at New Busan, now commanded a battlecruiser in Earth's defense fleet. He watched from orbit as civilian volunteers converted buildings into fortresses, as children helped load ammunition, as the elderly joined civil defense units. Every human on Earth had become a soldier. "Sir, we're detecting jump signatures," his sensor officer reported. "Multiple contacts. Hundreds of them." The Concord Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel in a formation designed to inspire terror. 800 warships arranged in a sphere around Earth, weapons charging. War Prime Thule's face appeared on every screen across the planet. "Humans of Earth, your colonies have fallen. Your fleet is scattered. You are surrounded by the full might of the Galactic Concord. Surrender now, or watch your homeworld die."
Ow.
The response came not from Earth's government, but from an automated broadcast that played simultaneously on every human channel. It was footage from New Busan, from Sejong, from a dozen battles where outnumbered human forces had made the Concord bleed. The final image was simple text: "We don't surrender." "Then you will burn," Thule snarled, and gave the order to fire. The battle for Earth began with orbital bombardment. Concord energy weapons hammered planetary shields, trying to burn through to the surface. Human defense platforms returned fire, their weapon systems designed by engineer Tai Yong, using every lesson learned from previous engagements. Mira, now a squadron commander, led her fighters from the carrier Incheon. She had survived Sejong and 3 other major battles. Her squadron respected her because she was good, and they trusted her because she had kept them alive when others had died. "All wings, weapons free," she commanded. "Target their shield generators. Don't give them time to adapt." The fighter squadrons dove into the Concord formation, like wolves among sheep. Human pilots had developed tactics specifically designed to exploit Concorde weaknesses. They were faster, more maneuverable, and completely willing to die if it meant taking an enemy ship with them. General Bora coordinated ground defenses from a command bunker in Australia. Concorde landing craft were attempting to put troops on the surface, trying to capture critical infrastructure. All ground units engage at will, she ordered. No retreating. No surrendering. This is our home. Human soldiers fought with a ferocity that shocked the Concorde troops. Citizens who had never held weapons before picked up rifles and fought alongside trained military. Teenagers built improvised explosives. Grandmothers served as spotters for artillery units. The Concorde had expected resistance. They hadn't expected this level of total commitment. Every human, regardless of age or gender, fought. Buildings were defended room by room. Streets became killing grounds. The Concorde advance stalled, while Earth burned. Admiral Dayan's fleet arrived at the Concorde capital world of Calath Prime. Stealth fields holding, Captain Soman reported from the shadow of Inchin. We're inside their defensive perimeter. They don't know we're here. Dayan looked at the tactical display. The Concorde capital world was defended by only 200 ships. Most of their fleet was at Earth. The opportunity was perfect. All ships drop stealth and open fire. Target government buildings and military command centers. We have one chance at this. The human fleet appeared from nowhere, weapons blazing. Concorde defense forces scrambled to respond, but they were completely unprepared for an attack on their homeworld. Nothing had threatened Calath Prime in 12,000 years, Commander. Ginwu's Special Forces team infiltrated the planetary surface using captured Concorde shuttles. Their mission was specific: capture or kill High Executor Vren and destroy the Concorde's central command infrastructure. They moved through the alien capital city like ghosts, their training and experience making them nearly invisible. Concorde civilians fled in panic. The concept of war on their own world was completely foreign to them.
I'll target.
Building ahead, Jinwu whispered. Government Center. Intelligence says Vren is inside, coordinating their defense. His team breached the building using shaped charges and electromagnetic pulse grenades. Concorde security forces tried to stop them, but human soldiers had been fighting for their lives for 6 months. They had learned every trick, every tactic, every way to kill efficiently. They found High Executor Vren in his command chamber, surrounded by guards. The firefight was brief. When the smoke cleared, Vren lay dead, and the Concorde Government Center was in flames.
Ouch.
Target eliminated, Jinwu reported. Exfiltrating now. Baster Yunji, who had spent years advocating for peace with the Concorde, broadcast a message to every species in known space. She stood in front of the burning Concorde government building, her voice steady. The Galactic Concorde declared war on humanity, believing we were weak. They attacked our colonies, killed our civilians, and threatened our homeworld. Today, we have brought that war to their capital. High Executor Vren is dead. Their government is destroyed. This war can end immediately. Withdraw all forces from human territory, recognize our sovereignty, and we will stop. Continue fighting, and we will reduce your civilization to ash. The message was received on Earth while the battle still raged. War Prime Thule, watching his capital world burn while his fleet was trapped attacking Earth, finally understood the depth of his mistake. All ships retreat. He ordered, jump coordinates back to Calath Prime. But Ensign Haniel had one more surprise. She had programmed a virus into the Concorde navigation systems. As Thule's ships attempted to jump away from Earth, their coordinates scrambled. Ships emerged from faster-than-light travel scattered across the galaxy, lost and confused. The Concorde fleet, which had arrived as an organized armada, was now broken into isolated groups. Human forces, coordinated by real-time intelligence, hunted them down systematically. Thule's flagship, attempting to return to the Calath homeworld, emerged from jump space directly into a human ambush. Mira's squadron was waiting. All fighters target the flagship, she commanded. That's Thule. End this. Her pilots unleashed everything they had. Missiles, autocannons, energy weapons captured from defeated Concorde ships. The flagship's shields collapsed under the assault. Mira herself fired the killing shot. A concentrated burst of plasma that penetrated the ship's reactor. War Prime Thule died in the explosion, along with 3,000 crew members. The architect of the Concorde's war against humanity was gone. Back on Earth, the Concorde landing forces surrendered. With their command structure destroyed and their fleet scattered, they had no reason to continue fighting. General Bora accepted their surrender personally, ensuring they were treated as prisoners of war, not victims of revenge. The battle for Earth had lasted 18 hours. Human casualties numbered in the hundreds of thousands, but Earth still stood. The Galactic Concorde was broken beyond repair. Dr. Guan surveyed the damage from her command center. The cost had been terrible, but humanity had survived. More than survived. They had won 3 months after the death of War Prime Thule. Dr. Guan stood before the ruins of the Galactic Assembly Building. The crystal halls where 47 species had once gathered were now broken shells, damaged by human orbital strikes during the final battle for Calith Prime. Work crews, both human and alien, cleared debris while engineers planned reconstruction. The war was over, not because of a peace treaty or negotiated settlement, but because the Galactic Concorde simply no longer existed. Of the original 47 member species, 31 had formally surrendered to Earth, 12 had withdrawn into isolation, closing their borders and refusing all contact. For species were under human occupation, their governments dissolved, their military forces disbanded. The galaxy's power structure had been completely inverted in less than a year. Commander Oyan Wu walked through the streets of New Busan, watching reconstruction crews rebuild the colony he had defended at the war's beginning. The orbital stations were being replaced better and stronger than before. The survivors had returned from refugee camps, determined to rebuild their homes. A young girl approached him, maybe 8 years old. She held out a small flower, one of the first to bloom in the colony's restored gardens. "Thank you for protecting us," she said shyly. Hugh accepted the flower, feeling tears threaten. He had lost so many crew members during the war. Friends, colleagues, good people who had died so this child could live. The weight of survival was sometimes heavier than death. "You're welcome," he managed to say. "Make sure you grow up strong, okay? So we never have to fight like this again." Captain Soman supervised the dismantling of weapons platforms near Earth. The war had forced humanity to develop arable weapons, nanite swarms that dissolve ships at the molecular level, biological agents tailored to each alien species, cyber weapons that could cripple entire civilizations. Now there was debate about what to do with them. Engineer Tai Yang worked alongside her, carefully deactivating the systems he had designed in desperation. "We should keep some of these," he argued, "as deterrents, so no one ever threatens us again." "That's what the Concorde thought," Soman replied. "They built weapons so powerful that no one would dare challenge them. And then they got arrogant, forgot how to actually fight, and lost everything when someone finally did challenge them. So what do? Just hope no one ever attacks us again? We stay strong, we stay alert, but we don't become the thing we just defeated." The conversation was being held across all of human space. Some advocated maintaining the war machine, keeping humanity ready for the next conflict. Others wanted to destroy the worst weapons, fearing what humans might become if the Why held such power? Admiral Daeyun had retired immediately after the war ended. He gave one final speech to the combined human fleet, then disappeared to a quiet colony world. He didn't want parades or medals. He wanted to forget the things he had ordered, the deaths he had caused, the moral compromises made in the name of survival. Mira visited him there once, 3 months after the war's end. She found the old admiral tending a small garden, growing vegetables with his own hands. "They want me to accept a promotion," she told him. "Squadron commander, 2-wing commander. Youngest in the fleet. Are you going to take it?" Daeon asked, not looking up from his plants. "I don't know. Part of me wants to leave it all behind, like you did. But someone has to make sure we're ready if this happens again." "It will happen again," Daeon said quietly. Maybe not in our lifetime, but eventually. The galaxy is full of species. Some of them will look at what we did to the Concord and decide they need to strike us before we strike them. The cycle continues. Then what was it all for? Survival. That's all war is ever for. We survived. Try to make that mean something. General Bora faced a different challenge. She commanded peacekeeping forces on the occupied Concord worlds, trying to prevent revenge killings and ethnic cleansing. Some alien species wanted to settle old grudges now that the Concord could no longer protect them. Human forces had to intervene repeatedly to stop massacres. "We're supposed to be the good guys," one of her officers complained after breaking up a riot. "But we're protecting species that tried to exterminate us 6 months ago." "That's exactly why we're the good guys," Bora replied. "Anyone can protect their friends. It takes real strength to protect your enemies." But the occupation was taking its toll. Human soldiers were dying in peacekeeping operations, killed by insurgents who refused to accept defeat. The public back on Earth was growing impatient, demanding that the troops come home. Yuna, the freighter captain who had become a fighter during the Battle of New Busan, now ran the Veterans Peace Corps. She organized teams of former soldiers to help rebuild destroyed colonies, both human and alien. "We broke these places," she told her volunteers. "Now we have to fix them. Not because they deserve it, but because we deserve to be better than our worst moments." Her teams worked on Concord worlds, helping restore infrastructure, sharing technology, teaching sustainable farming. It was slow, difficult work, and not everyone appreciated it. But Yuna believed that peace required as much effort as war. Ensign Han Yul, now the youngest director of Earth's intelligence services, had a different problem. During the war, she had cracked Concord encryption, infiltrated their networks, and helped coordinate cyber attacks that crippled their civilization. Now that same expertise was needed to prevent similar attacks against humanity. "We made a lot of enemies," she explained to a government oversight committee. "Species that will spend generations planning revenge. My job is to make sure they never get the chance to hurt us again." But the intelligence work was ethically complicated. Some of the methods used during the war crossed moral lines. Hanol had authorized operations that resulted in civilian deaths. It used tactics that would be considered war crimes under normal circumstances. Commander Ginwu faced an even harder reckoning. His Special Forces team had conducted deep strike missions throughout Concord space, assassinating military leaders, destroying infrastructure, and spreading terror. They had been effective, but at great moral cost. Now he stood trial for war crimes. Not by the Concord remnants, but by Earth's own government. Some of his operations had violated rules of engagement, killed civilians, employed methods that humanity claimed to oppose. "I did what was necessary to win," he testified. "Every action I took saved human lives. If that makes me a war criminal, so be it. But I won't apologize for keeping humanity alive." The trial was divisive. Some saw him as a hero who had done dirty work, so others could stay clean. Others saw him as a monster who had betrayed humanity's values. The verdict remained pending. Dr. Juwan, now Earth's first galactic chancellor, faced the most difficult task of all, building a new order from the ashes of the old. She proposed a reformed galactic assembly based on equality and mutual respect rather than domination. Many alien species attended the first meeting, held in a temporary facility while the old assembly building was rebuilt, but there was suspicion and fear. Humanity had destroyed the Concord. What would stop them from becoming the next oppressors? "We didn't fight this war to become another empire," Qiwan told the assembled delegates. "We fought because we refused to submit to yours. The galaxy doesn't need masters. It needs partners. Species working together as equals, not subjects cowering before a dominant power." But her words rang hollow to some. Humanity controlled the most powerful military in known space. They occupied Concord worlds. Their technology had advanced rapidly during the war, making them the most sophisticated species in the galaxy. How could they claim not to seek dominance when they already had it? Ambassador Yunji, who had advocated for peace before the war, now worked to build genuine reconciliation. She traveled to damaged worlds, listening to alien refugees, documenting atrocities committed by both sides. Her reports were uncomfortable reading for humanity. "We did terrible things," she wrote in one report that became controversial. Yes, we were fighting for survival. Yes, the Concord started the war. But we employed weapons and tactics that we should be ashamed of. We cannot build a peaceful galaxy while pretending we were innocent. The debate over humanity's moral standing would continue for decades. A year after the war's end, a memorial was unveiled on Earth. It listed the names of every human who had died in the conflict. 847,234. Military personnel and 2.1 million civilians. The wall of names stretched for kilometers. Hyun-Wu attended the ceremony, standing beside Mira, Salman, and others who had survived. They didn't speak. There was nothing to say that the names on the wall didn't say already. On distant worlds, alien species held their own memorials. Concord casualties numbered in the tens of millions. Entire generations of military officers were gone. Some species would take centuries to recover. The final piece of the new order was the most controversial. Dr. Guan proposed completely disbanding humanity's offensive weapons. Not the defensive fleet, but the planet crackers, the biological weapons, the nanite swarms, everything that made humanity terrifying to face. "We won this war," she told Earth's government. "But we can't win the peace if everyone is afraid. We'll use these weapons against them. We need to show that humanity can be trusted with power." The vote was close. In the end, most of the weapons were dismantled. Some were kept in secure storage just in case. The compromise satisfied no one completely, which probably meant it was the right decision. 10 years later, the rebuilt Galactic Assembly held its first full session. 63 species attended, including all the former Concord members, plus new civilizations that had been discovered during the Reconstruction period. Dr. Jiwan, now elderly and gray-haired, gave the opening address. The old assembly claimed to represent civilization, but it was built on dominance, on the assumption that some species had the right to rule others. We tried to build something different. Not perfect, never perfect, but better. A galaxy where disagreements are settled through negotiation, not war. Where species are judged by their character, not their military strength. She paused, looking out at the diverse representatives. "We earned our place here through violence. I hope our children earn theirs through peace." The applause was genuine but restrained. Trust would take time, but it was a beginning. Myra, now a fleet admiral, watched the ceremony from Earth. She commanded humanity's defense forces, ensuring they remained ready, but hoping they would never be needed. She thought about the young girl in New Busan, the one who had given her commander a flower. That girl was in university now, studying xenobiology, wanting to understand alien species rather than fight them. Maybe that was what they had fought for. Not for humanity to dominate, but for humanity to have the freedom to choose its own path. To explore, to learn, to grow. The stars were full of possibilities now, instead of threats, and in the end, perhaps that was victory enough.